Hiya. Today I want to talk about throwing cylinders, and we'll finish it up as a mug. Alright, so throwing cylinders is one of the most important skills a potter needs when they start learning to throw, because from the cylinder comes a lot of forms: cups, mugs, cover jars, teapots, bottles, pitchers, so on and so on. Aside from bowls and plates, you need to learn to make the clay go up into a cylinder first. So, and the goal is to make a cylinder with an even wall, as even as possible. So, we'll start off by wheel wedging, mixing the clay up and down to find any air pockets or dry spots or impurities that might be in the clay. So you do this about 3 or 4 times. This is also a good time to think about what it is you're going to make. A lot of times with beginners, they start off with a vague idea and kind of follow where the clay takes them. But as you get more skilled, you need to be more predictive about what you're going to throw right from the start. Okay. So I'm going to center now. You know, it has a little bit of a wobble in it. It's got just a little bit of a wobble. So I need to make it spin true. You do that by just concentrating and staying still. And also when you get it centered, you want to ease off of it gently. So in other words, if I center and put a lot of pressure and then let go quickly, you can see a wobble results. So when you get it centered and you feel like it really is centered and spinning true, then you want to release the pressure on your hand very gently and exit the clay very gently. Okay. All right, now we're going to open. And again, right here, I need to know what it is I'm going to make. If it's going to be a mug, I may not want to leave much clay in the floor if I'm not going to trim it. If I'm going to make a bottle, same thing. You generally don't trim bottles, so you don't leave much clay in the floor. If I'm going to make a covered jar, maybe I want some clay left down there so I can make a foot ring. So that decision needs to be made right now. So I'm going to make this with very little floor. Okay, so I've got it open. I was nice and steady as I opened it up. You can see I'm holding my opening hand with the other hand just to steady it. Now this is a point where a lot of times people who are just learning how to throw move straight to the pulling of the wall step. But it's important that you first set your floor. You determine how wide your floor is going to be, and you make it nice and even and flat. What I'm looking for is a nice corner down inside. Okay. If you just open and then start to pull, you'll generally get sort of a U shape on the inside. And if that's what you want, that's fine, but make it a determination. Make it a decision that you make. Okay. So I've got a nice floor down here, a nice flat floor and a corner. Go back and forth across the floor. Make sure it's even. Some people, when they open the floor, as they open out, they tend to push down, so you get sort of a little hump in the middle. Other people, as they move out, come up a little. They start to ease up, so you get sort of a more U-shaped bottom. It's very hard to open a floor and move straight across. So there's nothing wrong with going back and flattening the floor as another step. All right, now I have my floor set. And now I can start to pull. So inside I have my hand that I'm pushing against, and on the outside I'm going to use a knuckle. This is called a knuckle pull. So right on this ridge, right here, I'm going to use that as my contact point, and I'm going to push against the finger on the inside, almost like they're magnets. You don't want one above or below the other, and you don't want one forward or behind the other, because the clay will just sneak around. So you want a contact point. And my hands touch. Doing this with your hands separate is nearly impossible to keep them steady. So you want them touching together. So I get a little ridge of clay right there, a little shadow, and I lift it up to the top. Okay. Now when I get to the top, I'm going to just ease off. You don't want to pull through the top because you'll leave a mark like that. So just get to the very top and let go. And then I'm going to set my lip. So I'm holding it with this finger just to support it and just compress it a little. Okay. Wet the wall inside and out. Make another ridge, another shadow, and up they come together. See how my hands are moving together? Carry it up to the top. When I get to the very top, I let go and then compress the lip. Okay. And you can see as I'm moving up, I'm also moving in a little. Sometimes this is called a truncated cone. In other words, sort of a cone shape that's been chopped off. It's much easier to take the clay and move it out and spread it wider. It's harder to move it in. The clay doesn't want to occupy a smaller diameter. So wet the wall again. Line up my fingers inside and out, and up I come. Nice and steady. The clay has to pass through the space between my inside finger and my outside finger. Get all the way to the top. Let go. And then set the lip. Okay. I'm going to do one last pull. Usually there's clay hiding in the bottom. Now you can see I have a little bit of a skirt of clay. That's fine. I can cut that off. I'm going to take some of the water out of the inside. You know, it might scare you at first to stick your hand in there. As long as your hand's wet, the clay's wet, should be fine. If the clay was centered initially and opened on center, it doesn't matter what you do to it. You can always pull it right back on center because the wall is even. Okay? All right, one last pull. I'm gonna add some water to the inside wall. Go down to the bottom. I'm gonna push in at the very bottom where my floor is. And now this is what I call a praying hands. So I can't reach with my knuckle very well. So I'm gonna use fingertips to fingertips, touch my thumbs together. Okay. Gotta add a little water. Get down there. It's my middle finger that's the pressure point. It's my middle finger on the inside that's the pressure point. So I can get some of that clay up from the bottom of the wall. Now about here, the wall is the right thickness. So I'm just kind of cruising by. I'm not really squeezing anymore. I'm just cruising by, saying howdy, get to the top, and set the lip. I'm going to go in again and get some of the water out of there. I don't want the water to sit in the floor. Alright, so now I have a wall that's pretty even. And now the question is, what do I do with this? How do I shape it? And what's it going to be? Okay. So, like I said, I was thinking of a mug. This is an awfully tall, narrow mug. So I can widen it out. Put some water on it. Oops. And I can widen it out. I can also, at this point, give it shape. You don't really think about shaping when you're pulling your cylinder. But now I'll think about some shape. I'll give it kind of a bulge down at the bottom. bulge at the top. Set your lip. Okay. So that's kind of nice. This actually wouldn't be a bad drinking cup because you can grab it right here, and getting your hand under this ridge would give you some security holding it. When you do that shaping, again, I'm not thinning at that point. The wall is the right thickness. So it's more like a dance. The outside hand gives as the inside hand pushes. Then they switch, and the outside hand leads, and the inside hand gives, and so on. Back to the inside hand exerting pressure, the outside hand giving. You want the support of a hand on both sides, but they move together. Okay. All right, so let's say that's going to be our shape. Check down on the bottom again. Make sure the floor is nice. There's not water sitting down there. Okay. All right, I'm going to set my lip. Now let's talk about this lip. If it shows you how thick the wall is, but if this is going to be something that somebody puts to their mouth to drink out of, that's not a very comfortable lip to put in your mouth. Also, with that sharp edge, when you go to glaze this, the glaze is going to pull away from that edge and make it seem even sharper. So you have a couple options. One is you can soften that and make it rounder. Again, I often use my webbing of my finger to do that. That's better. I'm going to use my plastic chamois to soften that. So just a rounder, fatter lip is not a bad option at all, okay? But there is a thing called a drinking lip, and a drinking lip essentially tilts down at an angle on the inside. So in that case, and I like drinking lips, I would put my thumb on the outside for support and just angle down like this with my pointer finger. Okay. Now it's too sharp, so I'll soften that. Okay. And I can soften it again with my chamois. But essentially it fits the mouth a little better. It feels better in your lip to have it angled down a little bit, okay? And you can do other things to it at this point, like let's say I want to give it a belly button. It seems sort of belly-ish down there. Let's give it a belly button, okay? And then last thing I need to do is cut away the supporting clay. That makes that bottom curve more dramatic. You can sort of see the shape that's on the inside a little more clearly. Now there's a little bit of goo right there. I would probably wait to try to take that off and smooth that away. And there you have a cup. Now, the other thing about this shape that's nice is that I can put a handle on here pretty easily. That a handle would go from here, this ridge, down to that ridge, which gives you nice space for your hand inside. The last thing, we'll cut it off with the wire. And we're all done.